If you miss crispy beer-battered fish and chips, then this easy recipe will be a game changer. This gluten-free fish batter uses fizzy soda water or GF beer to achieve an ultra-light, airy coating. Hi, I'm Melissa Erdelak from the gluten-free website, Mama Gourmand, and today we are going to make gluten-free fish batter. This is a recipe that I put off for a long time. I did not think it was possible, or I thought it'd be like way too complicated and not really worth the effort. Turns out, both of those things were not true, and I'm so happy. It's really simple. You just shake it up in a bag so you don't even have to mess with coating. You fry it up on the stove. You can use gluten-free beer, so if you want that beer-battered fish and chips, you can, or you could use soda water. So let's make your gluten-free life a success and not a hot mess. Okay, let's talk fish. So, I tested it both ways, and fresh is way better than frozen fish. When frozen fish thaws, it releases a lot of liquid, and then you will get too much moisture and the coating won't stick to the fish. So for this recipe, I'm using cod, but you can do any white flaky fish, halibut, pollock would be good. I don't recommend tilapia though, that'll be too thin. You want your fish to be dry, so I just sliced it in about 2-inch slices and then put it on a layer of paper towels, put another layer of paper towels over it, kind of let it soak, and then we're ready for the first step. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put a little light coating of white rice flour, salt, and pepper on the fish. This just dredges the fish, so when we dip it in the batter will stick to it, especially when we're frying. Now, I like white rice flour. It's not sweet rice flour, it's just white rice flour because it has this really light, crispy texture to it. It's used a lot in like Asian cooking and tempuras because it has a really great texture on fried foods. So you need 1/4 cup of white rice flour, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and then 1/8 teaspoon of pepper, and this is just for flavor. Just mix that up, and then I'm just going to add my fish in here and shake it to combine. Okay, and then we could just set that aside while we make the batter for the fish. So when we make the fish batter, we're gonna whisk up all the dry ingredients first, but don't add the liquid until you're ready to dip the fish and fry because you want the batter to run off the fish. If it sits, it's going to get thicker. Normally I use cup for cup flour when I'm baking things. When I tried it with this recipe, I felt like the batter was too thick, and I realized it's because cup for cup has a lot of cornstarch in it. So for this recipe in particular, I recommend King Arthur, or look at your gluten-free flour and make sure it doesn't have cornstarch in it. Then you'll need another 1/4 cup of your white rice flour. Then we add 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, which might seem a little weird, but this just kind of gives that airy light texture to the batter, so it's not really compressed and thick on the fish. And then for the same reason, we also add 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. The rest of the dry ingredients are just for flavor. So I'm gonna do a tablespoon of paprika, and see, not working. So we're just gonna kind of go like this. It's for flavor, so you don't have to be exact on this. And then a teaspoon of seasoned salt. I know Lori's brand seasoned salt is gluten-free, just read your ingredient labels. A 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, and then finally 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. Then just whisk that to combine and set that aside while your oil heats to the correct temperature on the stove. You can heat it over medium heat until it reaches the temperature of 375. This usually takes about 10 to 15 minutes, so that's why I don't add my liquids until I'm ready to fry, because it's also good to have your liquids come in cold and the batter to be cold. So just some quick tips while we're waiting for the oil to heat up on the stove. Before you start frying, you'll need to get some things ready. I like a paper towel lined plate, so after my fish comes out of the fryer, I put it on the paper towel lined plate just to kind of soak up that extra grease. I also have a baking sheet that has a wire rack in it. So it's gonna drain on here briefly, and then it's gonna go to the baking sheet with the wire rack. And this is going to stay in a 200-degree oven. So as you're frying everything is hot when you're ready to eat. So the fish that has been fried will go in here, hold at a 200-degree oven, and then once everything's fried, you just pull it out of the oven and everything is hot and crispy. So our oil is almost to 375, so we're gonna finish putting your batter together. So you'll need 1 egg and then 12 ounces of cold fizziness. I'm using soda water today because I didn't have any gluten-free beer on hand, but I have a whole resource on my website of gluten-free beer brands and which one's the best, if you like an IPA versus a lager, and I will link to that in the description box below. At this point, you could kind of see what I was talking about. If your gluten-free flour blend had cornstarch in it, this would start to get a little bit gummier and thicker, and you want it, see it's pretty thin because you want it to coat the fish, stay on the fish, but then the excess drip off. All right, we are ready to start frying. The key to frying, well, there's a couple. First is you don't want to overcrowd the pan, because if you put too much fish in there with the cold batter, it's going to bring down the temperature of the oil too much. If the temperature of the oil is too low, it's going to take too long to fry, and then that's how you get greasy fish. You also want to keep checking your oil temperature throughout, and you might have to make adjustments on the heat, because if it gets too hot, then you will have overdone coating, but the fish won't be done inside. So you want to cook each piece of fish once they're all in the pan for about 3 to 4 minutes. Just keep using your tongs and flipping. And then if you want to make sure, you could also check the internal temperature of the fish too. It should reach about 140. Look at these beauties. They do not even look gluten-free. They just look like your regular old fish and chips that you used to enjoy. Now you can use this fish batter for other things. You could do deep fried shrimp if you like. You could do fish fillets and do the old school fillet of fish sandwich. I also have this incredible homemade tartar sauce recipe that I use. I use it on a baked fish recipe, but I will link to that in the description box below. And you can use that for dipping with fresh lemon. Oh, it's amazing. You can find this full printable recipe as well as the other ones I mentioned below. And thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.